of them in landslides. But every time we go to a place, South Carolina is another one, was so fantastic. Nevada, so many of them, they do polls, exit polls. And I win with the veterans so easily because they're so disgusted with what's happening. Now, in all fairness, we win with women. Oh, that's so good. We win with women. We win with men. That's less important. Women are more important. But we win with women. We win with men. We win with the most highly educated. We win with people without the great education. We win at every level. We win with evangelicals, so big league. I mean, the evangelicals, you know, Chris, having Jerry Falwell Jr. and having so many of these people that are the ministers, the pastors supporting us has been incredible. But we win with the evangelicals. And, you know, a guy like Ted Cruz, he comes into a room, he holds up the Bible. He holds up the Bible, and he starts holding it up nice and high. Then he goes back and he lies. I call him Lion Ted Cruz. He's Lion Ted. But he lies. And, you know, I found out a long time ago, the evangelicals do not want liars. They do not like liars, and that's what's happened. And it's hurt him. I mean, now it's hurt him. And that's why with South Carolina, he was supposed to win South Carolina, 67% evangelical population in South Carolina. And I won it in a landslide. And I won the evangelicals. And we've been winning them all over. It's been amazing. The relationship has been, well, I'm a good Christian, I will tell you. I am a good, and I'm a believer. One of the things, and speaking, Chris, of Christian, you know, they're chipping away at the Second Amendment, and that's not going to happen anymore. And they're chipping away at Christianity, folks. They're chipping away big league at Christianity. And I had a meeting with a lot of the pastors, and by the way, our pastor who was just up here was so incredible. He was at one of the meetings. He was so great. He did a good job. I don't know if he's back there. Maybe he's in the audience. He didn't know I was going to bring him back on, but that's okay. But we had a meeting with about 40 pastors, ministers, and I said, why is it that Christianity seems to be taken advantage of? With other religions, with other places, if you said things that you couldn't do it. You can almost say whatever you want about Christianity. These are great people. These are great ministers. These are really strong people, smart people, really good people. And they said, you know, Mr. Trump, the problem we have is when we do endorsements and when we do other things, they're so concerned, we lose our tax-exempt status. And this was passed during the Lyndon Johnson years. They passed it. Lyndon Johnson passed it. And basically, I said to him, I said, so that means that you were in Trump Tower. I said, that means that you have less power in a certain way than the man walking down the street because they've taken the power away. And I said, how many Christians do you have? And we sort of all determined together 260 million Christians in this country. I said, that means you're bigger than women and bigger than men. That means you're the biggest group in the United States. That means you're the most powerful group, potentially. But think of it. But they don't use their power because they're afraid to use their power, Chris, because they're going to lose their tax-exempt status. So I told them right then and there, I said, you know, and I've seen it because we're being chopped. Hey, look, we're going to say Merry Christmas again at Christmas time, folks. Remember that, okay? Remember. So I really mean that. You go into stores now, it's Christmas, and you don't see Merry Christmas anymore. Even if you say Merry Christmas and Happy Holiday for people, and everybody wants it. I have many friends that aren't Christian, and they like to say Merry Christmas. I mean, everybody likes it. The stores don't put it up anymore. So I said to the group of pastors and ministers, I said, look, if I win, we're going to work really hard. We're going to get rid of that restriction because Christianity should be able to have some power and some strength. They shouldn't be shy. They shouldn't be, because I really mean it. Things can be said about Christianity that if you say it about something else, it's like you can't even think about saying it. It's not going to happen anymore, folks. We're going to bring it up. We're going to bring it up big, and it's going to be a big difference because these are great people, and their voice is being taken away, and we're going to give their voice back to them, okay?
You spent some time last week talking about education. how important education has been in your life, and how important you think it is for every child in this country to have a chance at a great education. And as president, you have some ideas on that as well that you should talk to folks about.
Well, I do. And, it's about the American dream. And you really can't, unless you get very lucky or something, but you can't have the American dream without good education. The American dream is the great thing. And a lot of people think the American dream is dead. And I would say the American dream is dead. But if we win, we're going to make it bigger and better and stronger than ever before. Remember that. We're going to do that. But if you look at this country, and a big part of education is how bad it is. It's run out of Washington, D.C. So in North Carolina, you want to educate your kids. It comes through Washington. We're not going to have that. That's called Common Core. We're not going to have it. So we're getting rid of Common Core. And we're going to make it local, love. We're going to make it great education. But if you look at worldwide, we're in the top 30 out of 30 countries. We're number 30. So we're last. Out of 30 countries, we're last. But we're first in cost per pupil. We're number one. Not even close. By the way, number two, you have Norway, Sweden, Denmark, China, other countries. But these are the best for education. Now, we're number one in cost by so much that there isn't even a number two. The number two is so far back. So we spend more per pupil than anybody else, and we're down on the bottom. It's a little bit like running for office, okay? I spent the least amount of money, and I'm at the highest level. Isn't that nice? Isn't that nice? I remember in New Hampshire, one of our opponents, I won't mention who, but one of our opponents had spent $48 million in New Hampshire running, and I had spent $2 million. And I was number one, and the other person was at the bottom of the pack. And I said, who do you want to have as your president? That or this, okay? But that's the way we have to do it. So we spend a lot of money for education, and we don't get the bang for the dollar, and we're going to change that around because it's important. I know it's so important to Chris, and you've done a great job in New Jersey with that, but it's so important, so we're going to get it done.
Yep. You talked earlier about ISIS.
It's very interesting, and it's fine. Let him go. He'll go back home to mom, and she'll be angry at him. But little Marco Rubio had an event 2 days ago, and he has very small crowds, right? But he had this small crowd, and a guy stood up like that because it happens to everybody. They stand up. That's what they do, and they're disruptors. But they stand up. It happens to everybody. They don't report them when it happens to somebody else. With me, everybody gets reported. They'll say, oh, big deal. So Marco Rubio had a small event, and a guy stood up, and I'll tell you, it's on tape. They ripped him down. I tell you what, somebody, a security guy, somebody, they took him, and they just ripped him down. Nobody reports that. If I ever did that, I'd be on the front page of every paper in the world. I'm telling you, go take a look at it. It's on YouTube or whatever. But this guy stood up, and he said a couple of things, and they just ripped him to shreds. It was incredible. Again, I don't do that. I'm a peace-loving person, folks. See?
Yep.
I'm a peace-loving. We love peace. We all love peace. Okay. So anyway, I just want to say there's a very big double standard here, but that's okay.
You talked about our military before, and I know that you have serious plans about how to rebuild our military and make America strong again around the world. And people here in North Carolina are real supporters of our military, and they want to.
Yep.
And they want to hear from you about the kind of commander-in-chief you'll be for America's military.
Well, first of all, we have to make our military, we have to replenish it because it's suffering from cuts and cutbacks. And you know, in a certain way, folks, it's the cheapest thing we can do because I'm going to make our military so strong, so powerful, that nobody's ever even going to talk about messing with us, okay? It's the cheapest thing. It is the cheapest thing we can do. And we're going to go in, we have to get ISIS, we've got to get them out. You know, they're chopping off heads. We're going to get them out. We're going to get them out. We're going to get them out. I mean, just think of the great generals, MacArthur and you know, Patton and some of these great, more modern generals. Think of them. Think of the old-time generals. Think about that. But when you look at what we do, we don't fight. It's almost like we don't fight to win. We don't fight. I've been saying hit the oil for years. Most of you have been listening. And for years I've been saying, take the oil. And they don't do it. They don't do it. Take the oil. Now they only started, you know, after Paris, when Paris was such a horror show. And actually the French, think of this one, the French hit the oil before we did. But I've been saying that for a long time. And I said, look, we shouldn't have gone into Iraq, okay? But once we did, we're there. Take the oil. And I said, take the oil. For years I've been saying take the oil. And I'll say this, and this is hard to believe, and you'll look it up, and maybe it's not even true, but they say the reason they didn't want to hit the oil is they didn't want to pollute the atmosphere, okay? This is a little different. They don't want to change, you know, the footprint, right? Yep. The carbon footprint. And yet he'll fly to Hawaii in a Boeing 747 to play golf. No, he doesn't want to change. He'll have an environmental meeting, but he'll fly to play golf in Hawaii on a Boeing 747 with the very old engines that are spewing stuff, and then he'll come back after a long time. I promise you, I will not be taking very long vacations if I take them at all. There's no time for vacations. We're not going to be big. We're not going to be big on vacations. You know, there's so many things. It's sort of interesting, Chris. The White House is like this incredible place, right? It represents so much. And you're there for a limited period of time. If you're at the White House and you have so much work to do, why do you fly? Why do you leave so much? Why? You know, you think you'd want to work, straighten it out, get it done, fix it up, make it great, and then when you finish, you can be proud. But boy, are we a mess.
I've heard you say many times before that as Commander-in-Chief, not only will you build up the military, give them the equipment they need, buy it in a way that doesn't waste taxpayers' money, but also that you're going to have the back of the men and women who are fighting for us. They'll have a plan. You'll support the generals. And I think these folks care a lot about that because it's their sons and daughters who are out there protecting our country. And tell them about how you're going to have the backs of our soldiers.
I'll give you an example. So we send equipment over to the Middle East. It gets taken away. We send it over to our so-called allies that we don't even know who they are. You know, they're fighting against Syria. But we don't know, are we supposed to be fighting Syria? Because Syria is fighting ISIS. So if we're fighting Syria and we're fighting ISIS, but Syria is fighting ISIS and ISIS is fighting Syria. So anyway, so we have people, honestly, they don't have a clue, folks. They don't have a clue. And it's a big mess. It's a big mess. And Hillary started this all. Hillary is a disaster, okay? Hillary's a disaster. She is a disaster. Just ask Hillary about Libya. You just look at what's happened, okay? But we don't have a clue. And I'll tell you this, look, we send equipment over to people that we think are friends of ours, and a bullet gets fired in the air, they run away. A friend of mine has a son who's been there for quite a while in Iraq, been there 3 times now, and so disgusted. He says the enemy has better equipment than we do. It's our equipment. They take it away. A bullet gets fired in the air. These guys drop the equipment, they run. 2,300 Humvees with all of the heavy armor plate gets taken away. Do you know how many that is? Do you know how many ships you have to send? 2,300. And we're driving in the old stuff without any protection. That's why you have so many wounded warriors where they're just decimated, where the bombs go up and the thing just blows apart, and they lose their arms, they lose their legs, and worse. So it's going to be a whole different story. And, you know, I think one of the things that Chris is alluding to, I'm self-funding my campaign, so nobody's going to control me. Nobody. You're going to control me. You're going to control me. But what happens is a lot of the equipment we buy, it's not necessarily the stuff that they want. They want certain things, and they end up getting things. And you read about it. I've been reading about it since I'm a little boy, actually. You read about it, where they're getting equipment because one manufacturer has